Hello everyone. Today this tutorial will be on how to make a book cover. This is almost like the sequel to the 5-card, 5 envelope journal. You can do many things to make covers. This is how I finished my first journal with my 5 cards and 5 envelopes. I just used a 9 by 12 envelope, just like this. I folded it in half, and you know the envelopes, I glued the inside shut, and that's what I did for this one. Now, when you use the envelopes, you can have them open, and this is one I received in a swap, and what she did, she kept it open as a pocket like this, which is really nice. And then she just cut along the envelope. You can see she just measured very carefully, and just the edging, and she used some distress ink. Her closure is a large ribbon. So this is what you can do. This is the same kind of cover I did with that Christmas tree one. Or, as some people ask me, but I want to make a journal with 2 or 3 signatures. So in those cases, you're going to be making a spine to go with for your cover. So as you look at this, and yes, sometimes this is how I use book covers, this process. So you are going to have 2 pieces of rectangular cardboard of some kind, same size, a third that is going to be the spine, and then you're going to cut a piece of Tyvek. So let's begin. Okay, for this journal, I think everyone wanted to make just 2 signatures. So this is the measurements for a 2 signature journal. So it's going to be 9 1/4 by 1 inch. I'm going to draw lines 1/4 and 5/8. And these are 2 vertical lines. I like to have 3/8 of an inch between my signatures. And you're saying, oh, but they're not equal. It doesn't bother me because I'm not quibbling over 1/8. You're going to see there is going to be a little bit of given right here. You see that white space right there? That's where I'm going to make up that tiny little bit of give. So I use my Tim Holtz ruler, which I take a lot of care because I like to draw these lines with. You can use a quilter's ruler or just plain old ordinary ruler. So you make your vertical lines. After you've made your vertical lines, make my horizontal lines, and I start with finding the center point, and the center point of 9 1/4 is 4 5/8. From that, I measure an inch and a half, so it'd be inch and a half, or 1 inch and a half, 3 inches, and I draw 4 more horizontal lines, and you see there's a total of 5. These, where the lines intersect or meet, is where I'm going to put little tiny holes with my awl, A-W-L, and you can see the holes right here. This is what is preparing for you to sew in your signatures. This is the preparation. So this is the preparation. Now you can see the spine is attached to a piece of Tyvek. You can buy Tyvek at Office Max. This piece I happened to get at the post office because I picked it up and I didn't use it. So the Tyvek is 3 inches by 10 inches, and you're going to say to yourself, but the spine is 9 1/4. Well, I'm going to show you how I overlap it, and it just gives a nice finish. Now, I tend to eyeball when I glue it down, but I know there's people that are more comfortable with a little bit of guide, especially if you're doing it for the first time. So I draw lines at 3 1/4, 1 inch to 2 1/4, and this is what it will look like. Now, what you're going to be doing, as you saw with this other piece, is, or you see with this piece, is you're going to be gluing here you see the spine, that's your first piece you're gluing down. Glue down your spine. Then you're going to glue one of the covers. Now, what I will tell people is I will put the glue on the Tyvek. Put the glue on the Tyvek and then put the cardboard down. Now look down here. See this little overlap? This little overlap is why the Tyvek is longer than 9 1/4, because when it's folded down, it gives a very nice finish. So I'm not going to be gluing here for you because, you know, I think it's kind of boring for you to watch me place glue on Tyvek. So I am going to glue it. Then I'm going to line it up. Now I have my scoreboard here for a reason, because I use my scoreboard to line them up evenly. So I sometimes use my cutter because mine is 6 inches. So you line them up, you push back, and that's how you get these 3 pieces all lined up nice and straight. You see there? I had to move my scoreboard. And oops, like I said, I don't want you to be watching me glue. Now pretend this is glued. Now look at this. You see this? That's when you fold it over. Now I'm going to show you another example of this. But you now have glued the 2 pieces of rectangular paper, the spine and the Tyvek. Now you're getting ready for the cover. By the way, here you can see how the Tyvek is overlapped, and you can see how what a nice finish there is. By the way, this is just for one signature, and it is I believe, let's see, I think it's 3/4 of an inch, maybe it's 1/2 inch. I believe it's 1/2 inch, and then I just scored down the middle of it, followed the same procedure. Now, one of my favorite ways of getting ready for my cover is this right here. If you have some packing paper, I like to crunch it up into a ball, wrinkle it all up. If you don't have packing paper, a paper bag. Sometimes a lunch bag. You don't have a package of lunch bags? Well, go and buy a hamburger somewhere, because those are the only places I can tell you, or coffee, anywhere that you can find one. Treat yourself. Then I crunch it up, and I get my Mod Podge out, and I put Mod Podge all over the cover. By the way, you can see the overlapping pieces there. I put it all over the cover, and I believe, I'm going to be treating this as my cover, so I would put Mod Podge, especially on the corners. I make sure, and then I place the wrinkled paper and I press down. Now, it's going to depend on you how much of the wrinkles you're going to want to see. And it gives it a little bit of texture. And this is the texture you're seeing here. I'm going to be painting this bag. And then sometimes I use a second color. You can see I use gold. Sometimes I use Distress ink, maybe 3 colors. I get my acrylic and I paint it. And you see this wonderful texture, and I use it in the back. And you see the cover right there. So, and usually when I Mod Podge it, I don't necessarily fold I just have it all totally flat like that. Why? Because if you have to turn it over, you're going to get kind of a mess, a little bit of a mess. So I let it dry, and then I start folding it over. It's not, Mod Podge dries pretty quick, or you want it just, maybe a little bit of damp. And so what you're going to see, and it's too bad I have white here, is you're going to fold a right triangle on all 4 corners. And what I tend to do is I glue them down, all my right triangles on the 4 corners. And then once I have them, I fold them up, get the Mod Podge, and because the Mod Podge at this point just gives you an overall good cover, and I press down, and I do 2 sides first, and then the opposite side, and after that, making sure I have my points, and I press them all down, letting it dry. So you're seeing this now. I have a cover on my book cover. Now, if you want something flatter, you can get just another plain piece of paper, and you see the lines, and some of you might say, oh, I don't want the lines. If you don't want the lines, I would say wet it, get your spray bottle, wet it, and the lines will pretty much disappear. You know, if you don't have lunch paper bag, I think wrapping paper, packing paper, anything that will give you this overall cover over it. Now, this one, say, is just going to be relatively flat, no wrinkles. So it just depends on what you want to do. Now, what do you do now? Then you get another piece of cardstock. This one just happens to be solid. It can be a print, and it's probably about 3 inches by 9 1/4, and you glue it down. You glue it down, and once it's dry, turn it over, get your owl out. Oh, by the way, I forgot a step. When this is dry, turn it over, punch your holes. You always have to remember to keep punching your holes. These are your guides. Because if you glue this cardstock and you haven't punched the holes, you would have to kind of remeasure and find them again. A little bit extra added stress, which you're probably going to say, I don't need. So you're going to glue that down. And basically at that point, you can, if you're going to do any painting, I would paint the outside cover. Do all that painting stuff before, because you're going to be ready to sew. Once you've painted it, you don't have to fully decorate it, but at least the painting part does have to be done. One of the things I like to do to my edges after I've painted the initial color, once I've kind of know, I like to put an edge of gold along the edge. And you can see my edge right here. I just a very thin line. It just adds a little richness to it. If you don't like gold, maybe some silver, something. I just think it adds something kind of neat to it. So, you know, do your painting on this, maybe Mod Podge it, whatever color you're looking at. Now, then you can decide how you're going to be decorating your cover on this. I actually decorate my cover almost to the very end because it just depends what's happened inside my journals. I know some people make their cover first and then their journal, so whatever works for you. Now, let me show you the inside. What are you going to do with this inside? Just pretend everything is glued. You're going to then measure some paper. And let me show you what I did with this. I used a dictionary page, and this is some tissue paper, some Christmas tissue paper, and I Mod Podged them together, and then I glued them. I usually make pockets at the bottom of the insides of my covers. Sometimes I put envelopes. And this is one. So, you know, you can use your book pages, and, you know, I Mod Podge it, and then I glue it down. If you know this is what you're going to do, you can do this before you sew your signatures in. So that's what I did. I also, I did the same thing for the front, because I knew for a Christmas journal, sometimes you're collecting a lot of just stuff. So I just made it very simple. My closures, you can do one of two things. Sometimes, what do you call those little metal holes? I punched 2 holes. There's one hole, and there's a second one. What do you call? Oh, I can't remember what you call these little. Having a blank there, and people will run ribbon through them and just tie a simple bow. I tend to be an elastic person, and I sew a button. So I put the and I usually sew this button in. I punch 2 holes and I sew a button. So that's what I like to do. That's what my journals have, the button and the elastic right here on this one. Some people will thread, you see where the, oops, nothing like things working for you when you're filming. What she did, she sewed it into, sorry about that, she sewed it, the ribbon, her closure. She knew she was going to have a ribbon closure. Sometimes I will slip the ribbon between these pamphlet stitches, and then you can just simply tie it. So a lot depends. This is where you start making your journal cover how you wish to. Some people cover the spine with lace. Some people leave it plain. Some will put all kinds of layering. This cover, I don't know if it's done yet. It might be just like this. I might add more to it, because sometimes when you walk away from your projects and you come back, you can do, different inspiration comes to you. So again, as we look at this, making your own cover is really very simple. It has the 2 pieces of cardboard, your spine, your Tyvek, some kind of paper to cover it. Like I said, these are junk journals, so use your found objects and, put some paint down. You could use, on this, you could use, even if you say you don't want to paint, just put some scrap paper over it, glue it down. It just depends on what you want to do. This inside, you'll be getting some pieces. It's not 9 1/4 now. It probably would be 9 inches by maybe 5.5 inches. And you would glue these down. So again, thank you for watching, and good luck in making your cover. See you again.